Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Benjamin, and this is part 2 to my RPG inventory tutorial system, and I'm really excited for this video. Be aware that this is a slightly more advanced video, just like the first one. I wouldn't recommend it as one of my beginner videos, but it is pretty simple at the same time. I've kept it really clean, and so anybody should be able to do this and follow along and learn something from it. So let's jump right in. I've been preparing for this for a long time, but you'll see the first thing that I've done is I've created a new sword object. Now all I did was duplicate the sprite player, and then I came in and I drew a sword right about where I think it would look good on the player sprite, and then I erased the player sprite so that it just left the sword. But the origin is still centered perfectly, so that if I were to draw this sword next to the player sprite or in the exact same spot as the player sprite, it will draw it in a nice way to make it look like it's part of the player. So that's the first thing I've done. Okay, and I also drew it to make it look like this little icon that we did. The sword looks a lot like that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a new script, because we're going to need an item database, and this database is going to keep track of all of the items properties. So how much damage does our sword do? What sprite does it use for the player, and things like that. So create a new script and call this script item database. Okay, and we're going to just tab down and do 3/ script item database. Yeah, we do need those. Then create the sword item database. Well, the sword item, I guess. So we're going to create what's called a DS map. And all a DS map is it's a DS stands for data structure, and a map is just a set of key value pairs. So a key would be like kind of like your variable, and then your value would be like whatever the variable is. So the key in this case, you'd write it like this, so HP, and then you do a semicolon like this, and your value would be 1000 or whatever, and that's kind of how it looks in the database. But we're just going to add some of these key value pairs to the database. Well, first let's create the database. So sword equals DS map create. So there we're creating the database for the sword. Okay, now we're going to do DS map add, and we're going to add this to the sword database, and then it's given us a key, you can see right down here, and a value. So the first one that we're going to add is, the key that we're going to add is sprite, and the value is going to be sprite player sword. Okay, and that's the sprite for the player. When we equip this sword, that's the sprite it'll draw on the player. Now we're going to do another one, DS map add sword, and we're going to do, let me make this full screen real quick. We're going to do damage, and the sword's damage is going to be 3 damage. DS map add, and we're going to do sword, and we're going to call this type, and this is the type of weapon that it is. And we're going to do this as sword. Now it's crucial that this 3 doesn't have quotes around it because it's a number, and that the type does have quotes around it because it's just a string value, and that this object up here, or this sprite up here, doesn't have quotes around it. So be careful where you put the quotes. Make sure and pause the video if you need to double check and see, but that's something you want to make sure you do right. Now we're going to create another item. So create the potion item. And we're going to do potion equals ds map create, and we're going to do ds map add potion healing, that's the key, and then we'll have it heal 2. ds map, I don't know if you can hear the fireworks outside, but it is the day after the 4th of July here in the United States, so there's quite a bit of fireworks going on. So let's add in another one, potion, and we'll call this type as well, and this will be a potion type. So the reason we're doing that is because we might want to use that potion to heal people later. So, and we want to keep track of what items actually heal you. So now what we've got to do is we've got to create the actual database, because these are some smaller, I guess you could say smaller databases that we're going to put in the large database. So now we're going to create the actual database. So create the items database, and this one is going to be called global.items, and it's going to equal ds map create. So we'll create a new ds map for it, and we will add some values to it. Map add global.items, and we're going to add the sword and the potion to this database. So we want to use the actual name for our sword and the actual name for our potion as the key. So I'm going to do object sword, because that's the actual name, and then the value is going to be sword, which is the database that we created right here. That's this database right here. And then the key is the name of the sword. But you'll want it to be in quotes this time. So make sure it's in quotes. Okay, now we're going to add in the potion item, map add global.items object potion, and then potion. So if you wanted to, really quickly, if you wanted to add a new item, you would create a new small database like this for your new item and give it some different key value properties, and then you would add it to this larger database with a line like this, and then that would be a new item. So for every new item you would add a new database entry, and this way you can keep track of all the properties of all your items all in one spot. So it's a little bit easier to manage that way. And there are ways that you could make it even simpler to manage, but this works pretty good, so I didn't want to make this overly complicated. So let's create a new script, and this script is going to be what we use to get the values from our database. So like, how much damage does the sword do? We'll use this script to get that value. So we're going to call the script get item value, and 3 script get item value, and let's see, we're going to pass it some arguments, item and property, prop, I'll just call it prop. So var item equals object object get name argument 0. If I can spell argument, that is, argument 0. So we're going to pass in the item like object sword. And then after we pass in that object, it will get the name of that object, which is a string value, and we're going to use that to find whatever property. So var prop equals argument 1. Okay, pretty simple, those two things. Now we're going to do var item object equals ds map find value global.items item. So that we're just finding the item that we're looking for using this variable right here. And then we're going to return ds map find value item object and property. And that will just return whatever value we wanted to get. So this might be kind of confusing to you right now, and it was kind of confusing to me when I was working on it, so don't feel bad. But I'll show you how to use this, and the most important thing is that you know how to use this script. So I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So press OK. And now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a create event for our player object. So add a new create event, drag over a code, and we're going to set some variables. And the variables that we're going to set for this new create event are sword equals -1 and damage equals 1. Okay, so -1 means they don't have a sword. Pretty simple. Now we're going to add to the player's step event, and basically all we're going to do here is draw the sword if we're going to draw the sword if there is a sword, right? So we can put it after this script right here. Well, we're not going to draw the sword, we're going to change the damage, sorry. So if sword does not equal -1, so if we have a sword, what are we going to do? Damage equals script get item value sword, which is the object that we're passing in, the item that we're passing in, and then damage. So we'll set the damage to whatever the sword's damage is, right? Because our sword is going to be way stronger than us. Else, so if we we don't have a sword, damage equals 1. We'll just set it back to 1. Pretty easy. Now go into the draw event for the player. And let's see, this needs to be before the script because we want to draw the sword before we draw the player. It'll look nicer that way. So what we're going to do is if sword does not equal -1, so if we have a sword object, then we're going to do draw sprite ext script get item value, because we're going to grab the sword sprite. So sword sprite, this is going into our database and grabbing whatever sprite we have there. 0 for the sub image. Well, actually, let me maximize this real quick. You should probably do image index. Image index no. For now, do 0. We might have to play with that in my later tutorials. X, Y, 1 for the scale, 1, image angle, C white for the color, and 1 for the alpha value. Okay, pretty simple. So this is how you get the sprite that we're going to draw, and these are the different things that we pass into it. So if you need to pause the video and catch up, go ahead. So that's basically all we need to do with our player. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to we're going to create a new object actually, and this is going to be called object items, and this is just going to keep track of our items database. And so I'm going to give it a sprite of the inventory box and make it not visible, but technically it doesn't have to have a sprite at all. So let's do a create event and drag over a code for the create event. And all we're going to do is run the script that we did. So create the item database. We're just going to run the script that we already wrote. Script item database. Pretty simple, right? Now the only thing that we have to remember to do is, because of the way that these databases work, we need to destroy them when the game ends or we'll have a memory leak. So do add a new event, do other, and do game end, and drag over a code. Destroy the item database so we can avoid a memory leak. And I'm pretty sure, at least from what I've been reading in GameMaker, that you can just destroy the global items database and it will destroy all of the databases inside of it. So ds map destroy global.items. Now, if I'm wrong, and I don't think I am, but I might be wrong, what you would do is ds map destroy sword and ds map destroy potion, and you destroy each item that's in your database. But I'm pretty sure you don't have to do that. When you destroy this database, because those other ones are inside of it, it destroys them all. So that's all you need for that. Now you will want to, in fact, probably right now, I'd go into your room and I would add the object items into the room. And actually, while we're in here, destroy these potions. Just right click on them and get rid of those. Okay. Now the next thing that we need to do is change the game controller step event. And well, actually it's not the step event, it's the left released event. Now this is probably going to be the most change that we're going to make. So the first thing we're going to change is, instead of instance place, we're going to use instance position. Okay? And the reason is because it works better. I was having issues with instance place. So instance position, it basically does the same thing, only for some reason it works better. So then the next thing we're going to change is this right here, where it just says if box item does not equal -1. We're going to add some code to this. So do double %, and then do 2 parentheses. Okay, so it should look like this, and inside of those 2 parentheses we're going to do box.type equals script get item value global.item, and then do quotations type. So we're going to check the item's type and the parentheses, and then we're going to do the or sign, which is the backslash, only you hold shift and do it twice. A lot of people ask me about that. Just do box.type equals, and then do double, just 2 single quotes for an empty thing. So that's pretty easy. And then I think all we have to do is come inside of this check, and we want to put the item in the box. Well, that's already in there. So this is put the sword. Oh, that code, I don't even need that code. Oh, that's funny. I had some code in from, it took me quite a while to actually build this tutorial. And so I was trying a lot of different things, so I have some extra code in there still that I don't need in my working example. So you do need this right here. That is going to be needed, but other than that, I think we're actually good in this. I thought that was going to be quite a bit harder than it was. So yeah, awesome. We just changed these to instance position and then added in this little line of code right here till the end. So if you need to pause right now and get this line of code in from here till the end, go ahead. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to duplicate. Well, let's see. We'll need to go in. So we've added, let's see, we've changed the game controller. We need to add a type to the inventory box. So come into here, and we're just going to add type equals, and then just do two single quotes, an empty single quotes for this box. And we're going to actually duplicate the item box inventory. And we're going to give it a parent of the object, the object inventory box. So we're duplicating it, we're giving the duplicate a parent, right? And then we're going to come into the create event, and in here we're going to do sword for the type. Okay? And we're going to delete the end step event, delete the left pressed event because it's going to inherit those. You can add in a new step event, and inside of this step event we're going to add some code. And this is going to be set the player's sword. And we're just going to do object player.sword equals item. So that's pretty easy. And if this was, so this is going to be called actually object sword box. So this is an inventory box that can only hold a sword. So this is where you put a sword when you want to equip it. So if you're going to do any other type of equipment like helmets and other things, you would do the same thing, only you would do object player.helmet equals item for each one. Now we're going to come into the draw event and actually delete this, because we can inherit this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a pretty, it's a pretty cool little, well, let's draw this, I'm going to draw a darker version of the sword icon inside of this box to make it look like it's a box that only swords can go in, and I'll show you what that does. So if global.game state equals pause, then we'll do draw sprite ext sprite sword 0 view x view 0 plus let's see, plus x start plus 16 comma, I'm going to maximize this, view y view 0 plus y start plus 16 I think as well, and then 1 1 0 C black and a 0.25 alpha. Awesome. So we're just drawing a black, slightly transparent version of the sword icon. And then what we're going to do is, this is a cool function that I learned recently, and I actually posted it on my Facebook page, inherit the rest of the draw event from the parent. So you can use a function called event inherited, and literally what this does is it grabs all of the code that's in the draw event for the parent and plugs it in right here and runs that. So you can add stuff to what the parent already does, and that's just really cool. Like, I found out about that, made my day. So holy cow, I think we're actually done with this. So let's go into our room and actually put a couple, oh, one more thing. Duplicate this object sword, and let's just call this object potion, and give it the potion sprite. Okay? So we've got the potion. This isn't the potion, this is the object item parent. So come into the room and let's put a few potions in here. Not the potion item parent, but the potion. And let's actually just grab our object sword box and delete this first inventory box, and we'll put that for the sword. And I really hope this works. So I'm going to save the game, and we're going to press play and cross your fingers that this works. If it doesn't, we might be doing a little bit debugging, and this video will be a little bit longer than I originally planned. But if this does work, awesome. So odds are I probably got some sort of a typo. Okay, so you can see that it draws the inventory boxes when you press E, and that the sword one's there. So let's lift up this. We can put the potions in these, but we can't put the potion in that sword box. It's for equipping a sword. You can't put a potion in there. So let's come over here where we know where the hidden sword is, and we should be able to put that in the in the equipped sword, and the sword appears on our character down there. I can't believe this worked first try. So I can put those in. I can put the sword in normal boxes too, but I can't put the potions in the sword box. And wow, I am super happy that this worked on the first try. Like really happy, because that was a lot of code. So to get all of that code right on the first try is pretty awesome. If you guys had any problems with it, get any error messages, post them in the comments or send me an email. I'll do my best to help you out. This is a trickier tutorial, so be patient with yourselves. It's a little bit tricky. And thank you guys for watching. Be sure and like this video. That helps me out so much when you guys like these videos. Share them on Facebook, on Twitter with your friends. In the description, you'll find I actually have the download for the original, for the part 1 to this in the description, so you can go download part 1 if you haven't done that yet and go check out that video. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. You guys are super awesome, and I will talk to you guys next time.